Welcome to She Leads with Grace. I am your host, Gemma McCauley, and I am on a mission to help women take the lead in their own life by owning their feminine genius and reclaiming the power of womanhood. It's time for women to rediscover the value they bring and pursue the life they are called to create. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of She Leads with Grace. Today, I am joined by the wonderful Monica Elias. Monica is a coach for Catholic women, and she helps women manage their time, their self-care, and productivity. She is a wife and a mother of 4 under 8, and I would say that I'm a living testament to the fruit of Monica's work. This podcast is actually one of the reasons why Monica does what she does. Like, she really taps into women's ability to draw out the things that they feel called that they want to do. She has this way of like cutting through people's tendency to like overcomplicate things, and she just brings such simplicity, and she's a woman of action, and she is a great example of, a woman who is truly living her call. And I'm really excited to delve into this conversation. So welcome, Monica. Thank you for joining
Thank you,
me.
Gemma. I think that's
Pleasure.
the most beautiful the most beautiful introduction that I've ever had.
Well,
So
it's from the
thank you.
heart.
It's
Yeah,
oh
I suppose like when you are working together, like you enter into this realm of like really getting to know someone and getting to the root cause of things. And so I just feel a very special connection with you. And I thought it just makes total sense to have you join me in this space and
it's such an honor.
really get into the crux of how you've come to where you are today. So I just wanted to start by like taking you back down memory lane of how you got to meet your husband, how you went through the process of discernment and like whether you wanted to marry him or not. How did you know he was the one? And like how you went through that process of like meeting him and then deciding to marry him.
Mm-hmm. It's perfect because this is our 10th year of marriage. So at the end of the year, we're going to Tasmania for 5 nights with no
Amazing.
children. I've never been to
Amazing.
Tasmania. So yes, so very much looking
Oh,
forward to that. So we actually kind of knew each other our whole lives, just our families knew each other. We didn't, and then we went to like a brother sister school, and we then went to the same university. He was doing med science at Sydney Uni, I was doing advanced maths, but we didn't really, I just thought he was the most awkward person in the universe and avoided him as much as possible.
oh my God. I did not expect that.
I know. Um, so we didn't really like get to know each other properly. Like we sort of knew of each other for a really long time, and then it wasn't until after we'd left Sydney Uni and we were both at Theology on Tap, and
Classic.
he was supposed to be meeting a friend there, and then they bailed, and I was just the person that he knew, and so he came over and was like, "Can I sit with you guys?" because my friend didn't show up. So I'm like, "Cool." And we just talked a lot that night and connected and yeah, sort of progressed from there. It did take him like a solid 6 months to decide to ask me out after that. We progressed very slowly. In terms of how I knew he was the one, I had heard somebody like Jason Evert or had said when you're looking for someone to marry, run after God, and after a while, look to the side like and see who's running with you.
Mm.
And I just really loved that image. And
Oh.
so I had that in mind, and it just felt like that was what happened. I was just kept focusing on running after God, and it eventuated that he was the one who was like running along after God with me. And there was just a point where there was no like one decision, one moment, but I think realizing, oh no, like if I imagine doing life without him. Like I want to go along for the ride. Like I want him along for the ride with me, and I want to go along for the ride with him. I don't want to do it separately. I think is
Mm.
the best way to describe it. I know you asked a few other questions in there, so I'll let you ask the follow-ups.
Yeah, no, I think I love the idea of just sort of like doing your own thing. Like just focus on yourself, focus on the Lord, focus on like building yourself up as a person. And then when you are prepared, then you will be able to be ready for when they want to take that next step.
I ran an event a few months ago, um, which you were at, and there was one of the girls was talking about this exact thing, and I wanted to address that because I'm sure there are other people who struggle with this. She was saying something along the lines of, like, I hate when people say that you should like just work on yourself because I'm watching all these other people get married. And does that mean like there's something wrong with me and I have to just keep working on myself that they don't like, but they don't seem to be like that. Why don't they have to work on themselves? Like there was just this kind of this feeling of, well, there must be something I'm not good enough, but then these other people, they don't seem like they're any better than me. And then why are they? So it was, um, and I wanted to, yeah, to address that and just to get anybody. So if that's coming up for you, firstly, like I get it. There's we're not like not about to negate the frustrations of the single life, but I want to empower you that you get to control the experience that you have in the waiting. You can't. There are things you can control that you can do to to put yourself out there and whatever, but you also can't like God ultimately knows the timing, and we can't control the fact that it's a waiting. Like we can't control that, but you do get to decide what is the experience I want to have in the waiting. And so we can either have the experience of feeling super frustrated and impatient and not able to enjoy my life now and and all of that, or and this is what I think that whole thing is about, focusing on yourself. Like it's I can have the experience of I still get to live an amazing life. I get to focus on what I can control, which is just working on me and focusing on myself, running after God. I can have the experience of being close to him. I can have the experience of I'm really proud of who I'm becoming. I can have the experience of I can see this time as a gift to work on becoming who God made me to be so that I can be a better wife and a mother. Because I will tell you, I think it is actually much harder to work on it when you actually are in the thick of it because life just comes at you. Children and married life and family, it is very busy. And I can see all the improvement projects that I would like to do on myself, but I don't have as much time as I would like to do the interior work and think about it and strategize and all of that. So I think, and I think also just embracing life is just hard. There is always the cross. It's hard to be single, it's hard to be married. You're just exchanging problems. We're exchanging discomforts. And so it's just going to be hard either way. Um, and so just decide, just thinking about what do I want to decide for my experience of this particular hard to be.
I love that. And I think because no matter what, you're going to have hardship. And I find that a lot of the time in my life, whenever I've experienced any hardship, your attitude makes such a difference. Like I can be really, um, I can feel really bad about it. I can complain about it. I can dwell in this awfulness. And I think there is a time for that to delve into like the real emotion that you feel and to acknowledge that. But at some point, you do need to face the fact that this is just what you've got to go through, and there's no avoiding it. Like, there really is no avoid doing the hard. And, like, what attitude do you bring to that? What sort of mindset do you bring to that? And so, the prompts that you've suggested are so helpful and tangible because you really can adopt an attitude just by speaking differently, but in a way that's believable. So what you've just mentioned previously is like completely. achievable for people who want to do the hard well, I suppose. And I think that's what we're called to as Christians. It's like being in joy despite the hard and continuing to praise God through everything. And then that creates more peace, more serenity. You know, you have all these fruits that come out of having this ability to really own the hard and take it in your stride to touch on.
Embracing the cross
Mm,
and not resisting it. And that was one of the most powerful things, I think, for me in experiencing labor. Like it was such a physical, tangible representation of that. The more that you resist the contractions and the pain and say this shouldn't be here and this is the problem and I can't handle it, the more it slows down, the longer labor takes and the longer you wait for the new life. But the more that you can like lean into the pain and embrace it and relax and surrender to it, the faster that new life comes. And to me, that was just it was just a like really visceral physical experience of this broader, like
mm,
deeper truth that applies everywhere. And and I was also going to say, um, like when we're carrying the cross, there's all the it's heavy, um, it's painful in all of the ways, and we can carry it and have there's the suffering that goes along with it, and then there's the extra suffering we put on top. So you can carry it and be like, I'm so like I'm focus on the fact that we're following Christ and feel fully alive in that, or we can focus on self-pity. And I heard this line that I love, like when we're in self-pity, we live a pitiful life. Like, oh, I feel that because I can very easily go to self-pity. And I think self-pity showed up in my single life and it showed up in motherhood. I struggled big
mm,
time and still do. It's still a an ongoing battle. I can so easily go to woe is me and have
mm.
the pity party, but it's so true. It just leads to a pitiful life.
And it makes it harder too.
Yep.
It's like you're adding another burden on a burden that you're already
Yeah,
carrying.
it's extra, it's unnecessary suffering. It's like the cross is hard enough. Let's just add this extra weight. Or let's not. Let's just let's just put it to the side.
Yeah. So how would you like what sort of like practical steps could women adopt when they're trying to not be so hard on themselves, like not trying to have this negative attitude, but they I guess it's like a default. Like what can they do to sort of like I guess switch their thinking or be more conscious of the thoughts that they're entertaining?
So I talk about this in more depth I mean, this is the whole thing. This is why we coach for for long
Mm,
periods of time so that you can, because it takes time to really kind of dissect all the nuances. But I have a self-care training where I talk about self-talk as the most fundamental kind of self-care, and that's the first day. Um, and I think so. Number one, just realizing that the way you speak to yourself, it impacts your emotions, it impacts your energy levels, it creates your experience of your days, of your life, and your capacity to handle your life. And so I think just number one, recognizing that you have agency over that. You can either speak life over yourself or you can tell yourself things that drain your energy and slow you down and create shame and are not the identity that God has given us. So then it's like, okay, I know that I want to do that, but then it just happens and I'm not aware of it. So the number one thing that I would recommend to grow awareness, because awareness is authority, awareness is agency. If you have awareness that it's happening, then you can make a different decision. Um, Something that I like to do is have a little mini, like one of those super mini notebooks that are just like probably even A6 or smaller. Because sometimes I think we feel like I have to fill up a whole page. That feels overwhelming. But if it's a tiny little book, then it's not. It's just like, oh, yeah, I can like write a few thoughts down on this tiny little page. So you get this little notebook and set a particular time of day, whether it's the end of the day, beginning of the day, whatever, and just say, what are the like the recent negative thoughts? What's the negative self-talk that I've been saying recently? And just like write those down. I'm telling you, writing the thoughts down, firstly, it gives you distance from them, but it thoughts are slippery. So if you put them down concretely on paper, it just is going to help you have so much more awareness and notice them more in the moment. And so then that's another thing you can do. If you catch yourself in the moment going, oh, I can see I'm starting to go down a spiral, I'm going to stop and I'm going to put pen to paper. So it's either, yeah, in the moment or after the fact. That would be my number one recommendation. I have a post-it note in front of me that says writing things down is always a good idea. Sorry, your brain wants
Oh,
to always say, oh, I don't have time. That's going to take too long, too much effort, but really 60 seconds, like there is just so much power in that.
even having like a little sticky note on your laptop, or even having a note that you can put on your laptop, have it written there. So you can choose the thoughts that you want to cultivate. And then when you start, it might seem like it's futile, just like reading out these words and really not seeing the effect. But over time, you start to think these thoughts without even realizing it, and it becomes a part of you. And that's how you cultivate these good habits that then become virtues. And so, if you want to cultivate a particular virtue, so much of it comes down to what you're thinking. And so, when you can use these simple little tools to help you strengthen your self-talk so that it's actually empowering and, speaking truth onto your life, the more you can reclaim, that good attitude and have a better approach when it comes to the hard things and being able to live life well. And I think, I guess for us personally, it's easier to do that because we have invested in coaching. And I just want to speak about like, more of the power of coaching and like what led you to actually discovering what coaching is, and why did you continue to invest in this field of work?
So I discovered coaching through Sterling Jaquith. I'd been listening to her podcast, Coffee and Pearls, for many years. That was 15 minutes of wisdom for Catholic mums. Um, that was the way she started every episode. And and then she discovered coaching, became a coach, and started a membership for Catholic mums, which I'm still in to this day, 4 years later. And it took me a bit of time listening to the new podcast to end up joining, but it was like love at first sight. Like as soon as I started learning the tools, I could see that it was the fulfillment of many things I'd already started to be interested in. Like I'd been listening to Abiding Together for all of my motherhood up to that point, and that had really helped in. So I struggled with postpartum anxiety and just had some really intense battles in my mind. And but it just kind of flipped a switch and made everything make so much more sense. And I felt like, oh, I really have some solid tools to change any mindset now. And I immediately saw how powerful it was and started to go, like, could I do this? Is that something that would be allowed? And I think I had a very kind of small idea of how much space there was in the world for coaches. I was like, oh, but Sterling's already doing it, so I shouldn't bother because like she's amazing, and so what have I got to offer? There's nobody's going to want to work with me. And so it took. I remember actually being on, so with the way that the calls worked, you could um, ask anonymous questions, and I got like quite a few anonymous coaching questions answered, asking about logistics and things of starting a business and stuff like that, because I was like so embarrassed to even admit to her that I I was considering like going down this track. And what did I end up deciding? So it took a couple of months, and then there was the whole, could I really do this online business thing? I hate being on camera. I hate the sound of my voice. All of this stuff, like it felt so terrifying. And so just the fact that I am here in itself is just a testament to the power of coaching. Like that is the only reason that I have been able to get through all of that mind drama. I decided, okay, so this is the discernment piece. The biggest part of discernment that people miss. They think I just have to pray about it for ages until I'm sure. Versus I pray, I like engage with what do I actually want, then take that to God and have a robust conversation about it, and then make a decision and take some action so that I can gather more data and then take it back to him and go, okay, Lord, this is now what I think. What do you think about that? And it's just this iterative process, but action is just key. So I decided I could like let me just experiment with coaching my sister. Let's just see how that goes. And so discovering, okay, yeah, I do, like I enjoy it. I think I want to do this. Then I discovered the Metanoia Catholic coach training, and it was everything that I wanted. It was like the life coach school method essentially, but it was a Catholic version. And I was like, this is perfect. This is an answer to prayer. And so I dove into that. And also around that time, I read Jen Fulwiler's book, Your Blue Flame, which was all about, I think, drop the guilt and do what makes you come alive. So helping you uncover the thing that makes you come alive, and then dropping any guilt that you have around pursuing that. So that was reading the right book at the right time. And yeah, all of those things sort of came together, and I realized this just brings all of my skill sets together. A lot of stuff that they do in the Metanoia Catholic training, they have a heavy focus on your temperament, unique call to sanctity, using Clifton Strengths, that assessment for what your strengths are, the motivation code assessment, just really tapping into how has God uniquely designed me, and how does that fit with what He's calling me to do in the world. And so all of that was very helpful. So yeah, and it's just since discovering it, I'm like, oh, this is what I was made to do. Like this is it. This is my wheelhouse.
So amazing. And the fact that everything sort of like came together, like you started with doubt and you started with, questioning whether there's something that you actually are allowed to do. Like the fact that you even questioned whether you had permission to do this, like it was something naughty or because you're doing the same work, but you're doing it in a way that no one else can because no one does it like you. And I think that's what we forget. It's like we think that we want to pursue something. It may seem like a saturated market, but no one can do what you do. And it's like you have gifts that only you can offer. And if you are able to really develop those things, you bloom and you shine in a way that will attract the right people to help you, continue to grow in a skill set.
And if I can just add a couple of things to that, because I think I
Yeah.
used to hear that and go, yeah, but like not really. Like other people have the same kind of
Yeah.
gifts, like as me. I'm not like the kind of that unique, but it's like it's your gifts, but it's also like your particular life experience, the particular stories and examples that you're going to use. There's the way that you present. There's going to be something about you specifically that is just going to resonate with certain people in a way that other people won't, even if you think, oh, but they're doing XYZ better. But you're just going to be the way that they can hear it best, the person who inspires them the most, for whatever reason. And then the Holy Spirit is also acting in both, like He's going to inspire you in what you're doing and your creative work. He's also working in the other person to receive what you're doing. So, yeah, I think that has just been a helpful way for me to understand that a bit better.
Mm. And how do you go about pursuing something that you want, but you feel like you're sort of taking control over your own life? Like you're relying on your own strength. You feel like you want to do this. You're ambitious. You just want to go after it, but you feel like it might not be what God is calling you to do. Like how do you work
Mm.
out whether
So
this is
I
actually
think,
in alignment?
mhm. So I think something that's been helpful to me to think about is when I'm getting fearful of taking the reins, I imagine this like one of those rickety bridges going across a chasm, and I can go in the direction that I think God is calling me to, and I can do it very like hesitantly and like step on each plank of wood very like carefully, which is what it feels like, I think, when if I'm like, but I'm not really sure if that's what he wants me to do. I don't want to overstep the mark. I don't want to take control. And so I'm going to be really cautious. or we can stride confidently across the bridge, totally confident that even if it breaks, God is going to catch us. And the the way that you like, if you like, it feels very helpful. It feels like, oh, it's going to stop me from not doing God's will. But I think it actually just slows us down so much. We place so much smaller. If you were to imagine just letting go of that and going, well, if I wasn't afraid of not doing God's will, what would I just go and do? And do I trust myself to just keep checking in with him and go, okay, I'm not really sure, Lord, if this is what you want. So let me take some action and let's just keep figuring it out. And I'll just keep this is my best guess at the moment for where I think you want me to go, because like I have a desire to do it, but you're not really like giving me a clear answer. So this is my best guess, and I'm gonna just move forward powerfully and keep gathering more information. I'm gonna look at the fruits. I'm gonna look at whether I still want to do it. I'm going to keep praying about it and just trust him that he's going to reveal it. Trust yourself that you're going to keep bringing it back to him. And the image that I also really love is the idea of being in the writer's room. And I think sometimes we abdicate it all over to God. We're like, Lord, you write the story, like you tell me what you want. And we take this step back and we think, if I have any input, that's me taking control. But he doesn't want that. He wants us to be in the writer's room with him. He wants to be co-authoring. Like if you go out with a friend and you're like trying to have a conversation with them or decide where to go to dinner, or like what to do, how to spend the evening. And or if you imagine it in the context of a marriage as well, and you're just like, so what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What would you like to do? And you're just like, oh, whatever you want. And that's all they say. That's all they ever say. They don't give you anything. Like that's just not it feels very one-sided. And I think God feels the same way. He gave us free will not so that we could just like abdicate it. He gave us free will so that we could actively engage with him. And I think it just becomes a much more you have a much richer experience and connection and relationship with God when you're operating that way.
I love that. And is that what you mean by like having a robust conversation, like going after something, taking the action, and then revisiting it in prayer?
Yes. But it's also so the like if you sort of think of step one is so I have the what I think of as the 5 Ds of discernment, which are dream, discuss, decide, do, and debrief. So dream is the first step, and I think it's important to give ourselves permission to engage with our desires without judging them, without saying, no, but I don't want anything if it's not what God wants, or like that's a wrong desire, or I shouldn't want that. Just give yourself permission to just like bring it all to the table because it's the desires are there. And God can't refine our desires if we don't bring them to Him. And if we don't bring them to Him, like we can't bring them to Him if we don't know what they are, if we're not willing to be honest about that. And so it's just saying, let's gather the data, collect all of my desires. What are they? Let's explore it and then bring it to him. Even if you're like, this one seems sinful. I know I'm attached to this one. That's okay. It's a connection opportunity with God. Then you're actually bringing to him all of these things that then, like, it's just what I mean by a more robust conversation is you now have actual tangible things to talk about as opposed to, Lord, what do you want? And let me just sit here silently. He's like, but can you tell me like what's on your heart and let me say something about that. Like then there's some back and forth that can kind of happen. And then then when you get to so then you just so that's discuss and then you just make a decision, be willing for it to be just your best guess. If we let go of there's any right or wrong, like we know, obviously, I'm not talking about sin. Like if it's something is a sin, clearly that's not the right thing to do. But we get also tied up in like, what's the right one versus the wrong one? Just make a decision. And then you take the action and you're going to gather data from that and you debrief with God, take it back. And then it's like, well, now I've engaged with my desire, but I've also taken action and implemented, and now I can observe what happened in the taking action and how do I feel now and what do I think the fruits are. And now you've got even more of a robust conversation happening, and then you can repeat the cycle. So that's how I think of discernment.
Mm.
And also discernment, there's like big D and little d discernment. They talk about this in what's it called? Pray, Decide, and Don't Worry, which is by Father Mike Schmitz and Jackie and Bobby Angel. And big D discernment is really like, discerning your vocation, which is like, that's a big one. Big decisions. Most of the time, we're not making big decisions like that. And so in the big decisions, I think there is definitely there's going to be more of an element of the prayer. Like you're
Mm.
not just going to jump straight into, well, I'm going to become a priest today. But there's still little actions you can take. You can still you can go and talk to a priest. You can go and, this is the wrong thing. Maybe joining a convent. No one listening is thinking of becoming a priest. Joining a convent or getting married. Like there's little steps you can take. You can listen to a podcast. You can go on a retreat day. So big D discernment, it is going to involve more of an emphasis on the discussing, at least initially. Like it's more of a long-term process. But then little D discernment, it's really like I think of that as just prayerfully deciding. God gives us a lot of freedom. He gave us freedom and agency to lead our own lives, to be the leader, to be in the arena, taking ownership, co-creating our own unique life with him. And so yeah, there isn't this need to like overly pray about every tiny little thing. Like I think yes, it's beautiful to bring him into our decisions, but they're just I think just there's we all need to put a lot less pressure on ourselves to make the quote unquote right or perfect decisions. Just be willing to just decide things and and for it to be a little bit messy and to learn and like that even in that process that like there's so much virtue to be grown in that process.
Mm. Yeah.
So God he is a God of process. He loves the process.
Love that for me. I love the idea of like deciding anyway, and then whatever happens, at least you've given it a go and you've learned from that experience and you can take wisdom from that. Whether it's become what you wanted it to be or not, like what if it actually worked out better than you expected? What if it led to somewhere that you did not expect to come your way? Like you really don't know what can happen in your life when you just let yourself take a chance and see what happens. And I think
Mm,
every time you take a step, a little stepping stone will appear. You may not see the entire path, but you will know the next step. And I think just continuing to
mm.
take one step at a time is such a discipline. Just really remaining focused on what you're doing right now and what's the next step and not really over analyzing and over complicating what's coming because you don't know what's coming.
Like I love me like goals. I love goals, but they are not like a goal is a tool for you. It's not like I must achieve this in order to prove something about myself. If you're going to do that, it's going to be a very pressure filled, not joyful experience. It's just a tool. This is my best guess for where I think God wants me to go. My best guess for
Hmm.
right now. And then that's what my goal is until I discern otherwise. But then
Hmm.
permission to change my goal. And also I love the expression if there's no so the worst that can ever happen with anything is that you feel an emotion. Worst
Okay.
thing that can ever happen to you, no matter how anything plays out, like it's what you're going to make that thing mean. It's the emotion that's going to come with it. That's what we're always so afraid of. I might feel rejected. I might feel embarrassed. I might feel inadequate. I might feel disappointed.
That's
I
interesting,
might feel
actually. I've
grief.
never thought of it that way because you think that the emotion is ultimately what will result from your action, but you think that it's a lot worse than what it actually is.
Yeah, it's what actually happened was somebody said no to you in some way, but what you feel about that is optional, actually. And so for most of us, you're going to feel the emotion of rejection if you haven't really mastered the ability to not feel rejected. when someone says no. But if you, so then it becomes, so if the worst thing that can ever happen is I feel an emotion, if there's no emotion you're unwilling to feel, there's no action you're unwilling to take, which means that there's nothing that God could ask you to do that you would be afraid to do or unwilling to do. Like if you had to summarize what I do with people and helping them with their time, like when you can become somebody who there is very little time between I feel God calling me to do this and answering the call, like the more that you can shrink that time, the faster you move, the more you get things done, the less time you waste. You're just leaving no stone unturned in becoming a saint. Like there's just no half measures. I'm taking this so seriously. I'm playing full out. I don't want to miss a single thing that God has for me. I'm just fully engaged in this process.
Well, Monica, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your absolute nuggets of gold with us. I'm sure you have inspired people to consider delving into coaching and what it can bring for you in your life. And so if there are people out there who are considering, looking into coaching, how can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Monica Elias Coaching, the link that's got my all my other things. So if you wanna, you can explore the self-care training that I've done. I just did a masterclass on how to be consistent with anything a few days ago, which I think was amazing. I covered 10 mistakes that I see women make when it comes to being consistent. So if that is something that you struggle with, I highly recommend that. And then if you want to actually, you're like, oh, I'm ready to get started, I'm considering coaching, the best way to figure that out is to book a consultation, and the link will be there as well.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much, Monica. I hope this conversation brings many fruits to all our listeners. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to be here with me today. And yeah, all
Oh,
the
you're so
best.
welcome. Thank you for having me, Jenna. I'm so honored, and I'm also just so proud of you. It's been just such a gift to watch your journey, and I'm excited to see where the podcast goes. And you're doing just beautiful work, and yeah, I love it.
Thank you so much, Monica. I really appreciate that. All right. God bless. Bye bye.
Bye.